So, why have you come to see me today? Well, doctor, truth be told, I came to see you today because winter in Kansas City really kind of has me feeling down. You mean you didn't watch the video? What video? I mean this video, the 10 things that you need to know about winter in Kansas City before you move. Alrighty, the doctor is in, and I'm going to tell you 10 things about winter in Kansas City that you need to know before you move here. And we are currently in this crazy winter storm right now, and if you stick around until the end of the video, I'm going to go out into the storm and show you Kansas City in the middle of a winter storm and what it looks like, so stick around for that. The first thing that you need to know is that winter is wonderful before Christmas, horrible after Christmas.
Keep it real.
With Christmas, you have a ton of anticipation. For me, my kids are 4 and 2, and they love Christmas, and I love Christmas. And you have all the Christmas lights, and Union Station is completely decked out in Christmas and everything like that. We go and get our tree, and we do all that stuff for Christmas. But after Christmas, it is really, really hard around here because all it is cold, wet, cloudy, overcast, and we're just waiting for the spring. So what you have to know first thing about moving to Kansas City, especially in the winter or living through your first winter in Kansas City, is that Kansas City is so good before Christmas. And then after Christmas, it kind of gets to be a very cold and hard place to live, sort of sad. And that leads me to the second thing, is that you need to be taking your vitamin D. Now, I'm not a doctor, so don't take this as a official prescription, but what I do is I always make sure that I'm taking my vitamin D, especially during the winter after Christmas. This is the stuff that our family takes. We get it from Costco. I'm not a doctor. I just play one on TV, so I'm not giving you an official prescription, but I can tell you that it has helped me and my psyche and my mood, just taking a little bit of vitamin D during the kind of bleary, dark, bleak winter months, just waiting for the weather to break. Another thing that you have to know about winters here in Kansas City is that it is crazy inconsistent. You have these huge temperature swings that can go all the way down to 0 degrees, sometimes even lower than 0 degrees Fahrenheit, all the way up to 65 degrees Fahrenheit. Let me tell you a story about a Christmas where our parents came to visit. The week before Christmas, when they were driving in, there was this crazy polar storm or polar vortex. I don't know exactly what they called it, but it was frigid cold here in Kansas City. It was in the negatives, -14.
Are you crazy?
Some of the coldest times that we've lived through here in Kansas City. And my parents were coming in and they decided, hey, we want to do something in Kansas City. We want to see Kansas City, as it's understandable. You visit a city, you want to go see it, right? And so we scheduled a walking tour of Kansas City for the 27th, okay, 2 days after Christmas. And we had scheduled it a few months out, and when it got closer, we were in the thick of the polar storm, and we were just like, you know what, this is a stupid idea. Why did we do this? Why did we schedule a walking tour outside in -14-degree weather?
I'm so smart.
And guess what the temperature was on the 27th of that Christmas? It was 65 degrees. I remember we went out to do that walking tour, and we had bundled ourselves completely up because we were expecting it to be a little bit warmer, because obviously we had seen the forecast before, but we didn't expect it to be that warm. And so we were in multiple layers. I had my long underwear on, and I had everything ready to go. And when we were doing that walking tour around the Country Club Plaza, it was so hot. We were sweating through our layers, and we had to take layers off. We had to shed layers because it got super, super hot as we were walking. So you can see going from all the way from -14 to 65 degrees within the span of less than a week. And that is a normal thing here for winter in Kansas City. Crazy, inconsistent weather. Now, that actually is one of the nice things about winter here in Kansas City, is that even though it gets super cold like it is today, it can get super warm pretty quickly. And for me, as a golfer myself, I like going outside and playing golf. It really keeps my mood up. I like going outside and experiencing some of the natural sunshine, not having to take this artificial vitamin D. And so that really does help during those 60-degree days. If I can plan on just getting outside, walking around, seeing the city, going outside with my boys, going outside with my wife, maybe playing a round of golf, that really does help me get through the cold, hard, dark winter months. Now, the fourth thing that you need to know is that while the temperature can be really, really bad, what really, really hurts you here is the wind. There are no mountains in Kansas City. There are no mountains in Missouri or Kansas. There's just a few hills. and none of those hills do anything to block the crazy winds that blow through here. The reason that tornadoes are so prevalent here is because of the lack of mountains to block the winds as they kind of whip around. And so that causes a lot of windy winters here in Kansas City as well. And so while the cold will get you and the snow will get you, the ice will get you, what really hurts is the wind, especially leading to number 5, a dry winter and a dry wind. Around here in the summer, it's super lush and it's super humid. It can get really hot and really humid, and it makes it really uncomfortable. But during the winters, the humidity takes a huge plummet. And what can happen is it gets really dry around here. Your hands get really dry. I never can keep enough lotion around on my hands during the winter months. Your lips get really dry, so chapstick, we go through a lot of chapstick. And then one thing that happens to my family when it gets dry around here is nosebleeds. If you're prone to nosebleeds, then winter in Kansas City is not going to be super friendly to you. Sleep with the humidifier. Make sure you get a humidifier because it can get super dry here, especially at night. Now, my son Keller takes after me. He gets a lot of nosebleeds. My younger son Augie doesn't get as many, but I do remember quite a few nights, even just this winter, where he's waking up with bloody noses because of the dry winter conditions in Kansas City. Now that leads me to number 6, and that is the snow. Snow in Kansas City can start as early as October, but typically we get our first heaviest snowfalls sometime in the November to January region. Now, we've been around when it snowed in October. We've been around where it didn't snow all the way until January. So it's super variable going back to that inconsistent weather. Average snowfall in Kansas City is right about 18 inches. That's give or take a few inches here or there. I will tell you though, the past few years have been pretty mild. And even when we do get snow, a lot of that snow comes all on the same day or in the same few days, and it's not necessarily as spaced out, so it's not consistently snowing. Like today, we've gotten at least 3 inches of snow, as you'll see when we go outside. Remember, stick around for that. We've gotten at least 3 inches of snow. I wouldn't be surprised if it got all the way up to 5 inches of snow because it has not stopped snowing here, and it is continuing to come down. Of course, snow means snowmen. Snow means snowball fights, and all of those things are fun things to do, but we're going to get to the next thing, which is ice that nobody likes here in Kansas City. The worst conditions in Kansas City are not when it is snowing consistently like it has been the last day here. The worst conditions in Kansas City are right when the temperature is right above freezing, so it's still raining, but it's not turning into snow yet. And then the temperature drops right when the roads are wet and everything freezes and becomes ice. That can happen here in Kansas City, and it can get pretty frightening trying to drive in those conditions. So make sure that you know how to drive in ice and snow before you move here to Kansas City, because it's going to be a common thing. Every year, every winter, we do have icy roads out there. And while Kansas City does its best to clear the roads, I'm talking both sides, Kansas and Missouri do its best to clear the roads, you're going to want to keep an eye on those roads. And one thing that happens is the next thing I'm going to mention is that everything starts to close down when you get a first heavy snow. If you're coming from a high snow area like Minnesota or Michigan or something like that, or anywhere up north, you're going to think us Kansas Cityans are just wusses because we do shut everything down here when there's a significant amount of snow. I'm talking significant, at least, 2 to 3 inches of snow. Typically, everything here just kind of shuts down. I'm a PhD student in a school here, and we got a notification pretty early this morning saying the entire campus has been shut down. A lot of schools have been shut down. We went outside to play in the snow earlier today, and the kids across the street were at home because the schools have shut down. Now, depending on where you come from, you're going to think that, hey, these people in Kansas City, they can't handle a little bit of snow. Everything still goes on. I live up north. Okay, cool. Good for you. If you're coming from the West Coast like I am, or if you're coming from Florida like some of my clients are, then you are going to be absolutely floored by the amount of snow that can dump into Kansas City on one snowfall. So that's going to be depending on where you're from, depending on where you're moving from. Now, speaking about moving, if you're considering moving to Kansas City, regardless of where you are, give us a call. Our team is ready, willing, and able to help you. 816-4-MOVE-KC, 816-4-MOVE-KC is our number. Call or text us anytime. We also left our email down below. We would love to hear from you. Where you're moving from, we would love to help you. We've helped people move from all over the country, and a lot of people love it here in Kansas City. But But it's not without its negatives, which is why we're making this video about the winter here so that you know exactly what you're getting into before you move to Kansas City. Again, stick around to the end of the video. I'm going out into the heart of this winter storm to show you exactly what Kansas City is like during the winter. I'm going to drive around in it, so remember, stay tuned until the very end. Now, speaking about driving here in Kansas City is something that you're going to need to know. Like I mentioned before, they do try to keep the roads clear, but I'm going to leave a bunch of resources down in the description below where you can see all the active snowplows that are going on in Kansas City. You can see that our city is trying its best to keep up, especially when we have a heavy snow like this. There are some utilities and infrastructure here in Kansas City in order to combat the snow, so the links are in the description below. Now, the next thing that you're going to need to know is that power outages are actually very prevalent here in Kansas City during the winter. I've told you before in other videos, and I'm going to tell you now, that some of the infrastructure, especially in Kansas City, Missouri proper, is not necessarily the best. That leads to is a lot of failures, a lot of outages. A lot of times when it gets too cold or when it gets too windy, you're going to have some power outages. So you're going to want to prepare for that. Luckily, we do have a gas burning fireplace. We do have a gas burning stove, so we can still cook and keep part of the house warm. But if it was a prolonged outage, I don't necessarily know what we would do. In fact, we had an outage yesterday that lasted probably 3 to 5 hours, and it got the power back on. But it can be scary thinking, hey, it's 25 degrees outside. It's getting really cold inside the house. There's no power. There's no heat. That can be really scary. So if you're not ready for that, you're going to want to avoid winter here in Kansas City. So that being said, I'm going to get out of my doctor's outfit and I'm going to get into my snow outfit, and I'm going to go take you around Kansas City in the winter. Bye, family.
See you later, Dad.
Bye, cheerleader.
Bye, cheerleader.
Step number 1 is you've got to deal with this. For what it's worth, not too bad because it's not super cold yet. If it would have frozen to my windshield, that would have been really horrible. Okay, we are off. I'll tell you what I'm seeing out here in this storm. Now, for a lot of you, this may not be considered a really crazy storm, but for us, this is a pretty big one here. You can see that they have been clearing the roads, and the roads are overall, I would say, relatively clear. Of course, they're going to have to continue to close the roads, and as the temperatures drop to below freezing or really cold, then they're going to have to continue to clear the roads, and a lot of this will become ice. So I wouldn't necessarily feel the safest doing this when that happens, but since it's still in the 30s right now, I just wanted to give you a chance to show you what it's like during a winter storm here in Kansas City. You can see that there's somebody over here shoveling their driveway, making sure that it's clear. You can also see to my right that there are people, out and about doing snowball wars and all that kind of stuff, giving them a friendly kind of wave there. It's a pretty good snowman. Once we get to the main streets, you'll see that the clearance and the street plows and everything do a really good job. So these are kind of the side streets here. I mean, you can even see people out and about walking their dog. So where I'm going to take you is I'm going to take you to a place that our family frequents, which is the Kaufman Conservation Area. And you've probably seen a lot of clips of my family there, either riding their bikes or just enjoying the summer. So a quiet spot where I can kind of walk around, show you what I'm seeing in Kansas City, but also give you the full extent of what really bad winter weather here is like in Kansas City. So we'll head there right now. So you saw right there, one of the snowplows went across the street. They are going to be very active for the next few days here. It's the first day of the winter storm and the winter weather that has been rolling in. And one of the benefits of it is that it is really beautiful. It's just one of the most beautiful times. A lot less people out and about, even though you do see that there are still people out and about. A lot of them are utility vehicles trying to keep the roads clear, but there are also just people who are going about their day. So you can see here on the right, they're plowing this parking lot here. Okay, I'm out here at Kaufman Legacy Park, one of our favorite places to go for a walk in Kansas City. It's really beautiful out here, but it is really cold. And there's nobody else out here. It's just me kind of braving the weather to make sure you can have a glimpse of what winter is like here in Kansas City, especially during the winter storm. It's even gotten to the point now where all the snow has kind of melted, become really, really mushy. And turn you around here, show you what I see. It is really eerie and really beautiful, but if you're not ready for this weather, then of course you could stay inside. You don't have to be outside during this weather, but this is gonna happen at least once a year in Kansas City. So my advice to you, especially if you're moving from a climate that doesn't necessarily have these extremes, is to make sure you have a thick kind of parka like what I have on right now. I misplaced my gloves, so my hands are absolutely freezing cold, and with a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old, I've also misplaced my beanie, so my ears are pretty cold right now too. Other than that, I think I can bear it. It's been a while since I moved here to Kansas City, and growing up in the California weather, this is definitely brand new for me. But after a while, your body does kind of get acclimated to it, and it's fine. Like, I'm obviously a little bit uncomfortable right now, but not in danger of dying or anything like that. So just something that you're gonna wanna know if you relocate here to Kansas City.